Most people never expand their world because they stay surrounded by what's familiar. What if the key to growth isn't doing more, but experiencing more? Welcome to the Doing What You Know podcast. I'm Ray Thigpen. This show is about closing the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. Through real conversations, lived experience, and practical insight, we focus on mindset, growth, and becoming who you were created to be. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 13 of the Doing What You Know podcast. I'm your host, Ray Thigpen, and today's guest is an educator who's focused on the power of cultural exchange and how learning from different cultures and perspectives can broaden our understanding of the world and strengthen our connection with one another. Through his communities and classrooms, he's working to bring global perspectives directly into people's lives and learning environments. Constantine, for someone hearing the phrase cultural exchange for the first time, what does that actually look like in everyday life, and why does it matter?
Well, the word exchange, when you hear cultural exchange, everything I'm going to say is my opinion. I'm sure everybody has their own opinion based on cultural exchange. But when I hear cultural exchange, I focus on the word exchange because the whole concept of cultural exchange is bringing people together. Whatever the cultural piece is, whether it's education, language, food, art, sports, whatever, we all have it. We all have culture. We all have the same culture. We do things the same, but let me rephrase that. We do the same things, but we do them a little different. So when people do cultural exchange programs, and Ray, I'm probably telling you something you already know. Anyway, we all know cultural exchange programs are to bring people together, to do things together, to contribute to somebody else's society, to contribute to people in groups of people, giving them things they don't know or haven't never experienced. Blah blah blah. And that's a bonding period. Whether it's small scale or big scale, it could be city to city. It could be just the same community of people, but everybody's different. So when we come together, just like here in school, we come together. We're all different people. We're all sharing what we have. So I'm doing programs or trying to do programs. I'll give you an example. I have some artists making paintings of birds. Every single nation in this world has a bird, a symbol. So I'm trying to get artists to paint me birds, all 195 of them. Actually 195 countries, but now all 195 don't have a bird. So I'm getting the ones who do, and then we're gonna mix and match. We're gonna put 2 and 3 birds on one picture frame. We may have the bird from Greece, China, and maybe England. Mash them on the same picture. Things like that. Foods. I'm bringing in tea. I'm importing tea into Chicago from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is one of the biggest or one of the best teas in terms of agriculture. And I don't know how many people really know that, but they are. When you think of tea, you think of China, but really Sri Lanka because of the land. So all of that stuff that I'm saying right now, all the things that I'm saying, they're geography, economics, teas, coffees, chocolates, honey, everything, cinnamons. They all have a role in society. They all have a role in where they're from. The same in differences. Cinnamon is cinnamon, but cinnamon in Greece is different than cinnamon in Sri Lanka. So I'm trying to bring everything into one little circle in Chicago. And the reason I want to do that is because, before I answer this, many people feel like businesses should have a purpose, right? There should be a purpose. There should be a role that it's playing. There should be a problem it's solving. And I feel like we as a globe need to come closer together. Obviously, one person, I'm not going to be able to solve the problems of the world. But if I can put a symbol out there, a cultural exchange company, to serve a symbolic role of being together as one, and just stocking up with as much product that I can get my hands on. And so far, the foundation's being set. I don't believe anybody's out there doing that. People are doing cultural exchange, but I don't think they're doing all 195 countries into the same room. So kind of that's where
Mm, you're
that's
probably right. I haven't heard of anybody doing anything like that. And touching on that a little bit, I like the fact that you're saying we're all different, but we're all the same,
sure.
which is so true. I mean, it reminds me of the movie. I think it was Independence Day, or anyway, it was one of the alien invasion movies where beings from another planet were invading the Earth, and all of a sudden we became one race, the human race, which
Sure, of course.
right, and that's where we really should focus on being one community, one race.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not the first person to try to do something like this. It's happening everywhere. There are just things are happening in just different ways. I'll throw Martin Luther King out there. During his days, he tried to stress the world's house. That was his phrase, the world's house. People have probably used that phrase a time or two, but the whole world's house, and this was in the '60s. Um, it's like bringing everybody to the same house as one, Um, that's why he called it the world's house. I'm not doing a world's house, but I'm doing a world's grocery store. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's not just gonna be groceries. We're gonna have art. We're gonna have jewelry. We're bringing in blue sapphires from Sri Lanka because also blue sapphires are big in Sri Lanka. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the blue sapphire out of Sri Lanka is one of the globe's biggest, most precious. Um, and so I have my business partners from Sri Lanka. So that's why I keep saying Sri Lanka. But we also have honey coming out of Greece. We have teas coming out of most nations because tea is symbolic. Tea is well, I'm going to say this with my own opinion, but I believe it's true. Tea symbolizes peace.
Talk to me a little bit about the differences in teas. I know you mentioned Chinese tea. So there's green teas and there's black teas, and can you tell me a little bit about the differences?
Tea's one product that is symbolic of peace, and everybody's using it. Everybody's using it. Tea's a big piece. It
Mm.
started in China, which is where I'm at now, and it's spread out all over the world, and everybody uses it. Tea's bigger than coffee, believe it or not, but everybody loves coffee. Coffee's big also. Yeah.
It is. I'm not a huge tea drinker myself. The only tea that I drink, I'm from the South in North Carolina, and it's the home of sweet iced tea. Um, if you go to some of the local barbecue restaurants around here and order sweet tea, it's practically sugar water. So that that it's more sugar than tea. But yeah, I do coffee and black tea. My wife likes to drink a variety of different teas. She does the green teas and some of the herbal teas and that sort of stuff from time to time.
Yeah, tea's big. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
besides tea, tea and art and jewelry, um, tell us a little more about your entrepreneurial um, adventure or venture going on in Chicago and how you're trying to build that out.
Chicago's my home. Chicago. Well, Joliet, Illinois is my hometown, and Chicago is where I want to build the foundation. I mean, Chicago is a major city, um, and being my home state, I just decided to base out of Chicago. I've been living overseas for a few years, so I'm bringing the company back home um, with my business partner out of Sri Lanka, and we just try to build out of Chicago. That's the reasoning for Chicago. Yeah, we're gonna try to spread out to other states, but we're gonna take it day by day, step by step.
Sure. Yeah, Chicago's a huge hub. With especially if you want to go international or across the country. But yeah, you've got the population there to build a local store anyway.
Yes, and it's very diverse. It's extremely diverse. Well, Chicago, L.A., and New York. Three of the big cities. Um, but I chose where I'm from.
Sure, absolutely. And it makes perfect sense. Even though we're talking world cultures, we all still have our roots. That's
Sure.
one of our differences. So that's always, they say you always go back to your roots.
Oh yes, yeah. I spent a lot of time in Oklahoma, uh, and I like the central parts. I like the central positioning of the country. Um, More, it's a little peaceful area. You know, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, that little region of the country. I really enjoy that. But um, business wise, I'm going to stay in Chicago, and then eventually I'm going to push west, and maybe east. I don't know. We'll see. Got to take it day by day.
No, let's see, Constantine, you've got a school community now too, right?
Yes, yes.
Tell
That's
us a little
how.
bit about that.
Trying to what we're talking about is I'm trying to bring into my community. Each of my classrooms is based is culturally based. Um, Sports. I have language learning. I have tea. I actually have history of tea. I have histories. These are all cultural pieces. One of the biggest cultural pieces in the world is language. I teach. I teach English. I teach debate. I teach public speaking. I teach history. Um, I teach. I'm an athletic director. I'm a coach in the real world. And now I'm going to try to see what I can do with it in the virtual world. I think that online learning is the future. Uh, it's not. I don't think it's 100% the present. I say that loosely because we're all in it and we're all trying to do it. But I don't think we fully transition as a society, as a globe of people. But there will be one day, I believe, where everything's gonna be online, just because everybody's so busy, um, and it works. And it's such a different kind of classroom environment. I'm not 100% transitioned into it myself. I'm still physically in a classroom. I just left one, and
Mhm.
I teach still. You know, even though trying to build, even though I'm building a company and I'm building my school site, still a teacher. I still walk in and out of the classroom, and I still coach sports, and I physically do it. But many people like to try to do things on their own. So if we can guide them, serving as I call them guides. I don't really think online we're teachers. I think we're more guides. We present them with the product. It's their job to take it and run. The old saying, I don't know who created the saying, but the old saying goes, well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can't make it drink it. And then Confucius said the same thing. He said, you know, there's four corners. I'm not going to quote Confucius 100%, but he basically said, with a teacher, there's four corners. You show up for one corner, I guess, and then the student has to take the other three. That's not exactly how Confucius said it, but it's something of that nature. I don't have it in front of my face to quote, but basically what he was saying is, you know, and he did say this: a teacher opens the door, but the student has to walk through.
Mm.
Um, it's more of a presentation. It's more of a contribution to that person's life.
Yep.
And
That's
I've never really thought of that until I grew older because I've been a teacher for many years.
Yeah, the COVID pandemic is what really started driving the whole online classroom thing, and I'm sure you're well aware of that.
Oh
Um,
yes.
and that's another thing with the reason that I wrote my book is kind of along the same lines, as far as leading a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You know, and the way our online school communities are going to work with the classrooms is we'll present that information, but it's up to the students to actually take action. And that's
Of
where
course.
most people are lacking. The people read the books and listen to the tapes and think they're going to get better, but they don't get any better until they put it into action. So that's one of the key things. That's probably one of the biggest challenges with online school is presenting information to somebody and then encouraging them to take action. Do you have
Yeah.
any way of maybe rewarding somebody for taking action?
Hmm. That's kind of a toss up out there. I reward students all the time physically, but online, honestly, it's a great question, and it's something I may have to think about because people react to rewards. Obviously, as a teacher, we're saying right here and now the things that Confucius said, or the whole, we can open the door for you, but you have to walk through it. If you don't walk through it, you're not going to grow. Or there's four corners to a classroom. We'll step into the first corner. I'm not quoting him exactly, but that's basically what he means. We'll step up to the first corner. We're there for you. We're here for you. But if you're going to be successful, you have to take the other four corners. It's your job. It's their job. I never knew that as a student, and I never knew that as a young teacher. But as I grew older, I started noticing more and more that you just can't fix everybody. And I tried for many years. I tried. My whole focal point as an educator had always been to focus on the bottom tier of kids. I focus on everybody, but another Confucian thought is it's not the group of people that are succeeding that we're here for. It's the group on the bottom, the ones who are struggling, the ones who are troublemakers, the ones who don't want to be there. Those are the kids we're supposed to be there for. And I never really thought of that as an educator, a young one. But I read a lot of Confucius, and Lao Tzu, and other Chinese philosophers, and Greek philosophers also, and other philosophers, but more China since I moved here. And I was amazed at hearing that quote, because it has always bothered me that you can present them with so much and they would just never show up. And they're the ones I've always tried to reach, because as a young teacher, I was living in a fantasy land where I believed that we could perfect everybody. And we kind of did, in a way, with some programs that I ran. Like, I took a group of football players, a whole football program, 4 grades, and focusing on the bottom tier of kids, because when I walked into that program, they were holding a 1.9 grade point average as a whole football program with only like 6 honor roll kids, and it took 2 years, but by the second year, we had 60 honor roll kids, and we had a 3.6 grade point average as a program. So that's just one program. There are other programs, but the moral, the whole message there, what I'm trying to describe, is I only focused on the kids on the bottom, and I encouraged the kids on top to be my support, and they would be at all the tutoring programs, and they would do the work. I'm a tutor also, but I'm the director, so and coach and teacher. So I would bring in teachers and parents, parent mentors, and community mentors, corporate mentors. But the biggest who served the struggling group were the top students. Our top students did all the work, most of it. And we saw things change, but we couldn't get that small group to really turn full circle. And it was always it always bothered me. And then I realized, as I woke up and grew older, that we're not going to get it. We're not going to get everybody. It's just impossible. There's always going to be somebody who's just not going to do it. So we have to just give what we can give, and that's why I look at school, and I've been learning. I'm still not full circle with school, but I see virtual classrooms where you put the product out there, and people will come in and they'll play with it. And I call it playing because it's supposed to be fun. Reading's fun. History's fun. Math is fun if you use it to better yourself. I think what makes it a pain for students, younger people, is having to sit through a classroom. But obviously, the voices have to still be there because we still have to teach them how to take steps through it. But if we put the product out there for them to walk in on their own, because we're not going to be with them 100% of the time, they may come in, like right now, it's almost 10 o'clock at night where I'm at, but in the States, it's early. So they may get up on a Saturday morning, well, I'm going to sleep. I won't be teaching them, but they can teach themselves. I don't know if that's exactly what school is supposed to be, but I think that's a good thing, you know? I think it's a good
But
thing to put that product out there for them to experience it. And obviously we communicate with each other along the way. Set up
yeah,
meetings, do you know?
yeah, that's certainly one avenue for school. I mean, school is so large, so huge, and there's so many different areas of expertise that people are sharing their passions and trainings. And one thing that comes to mind for me that's kind of it's not what you would consider a traditional school, but from a sports background perspective, I'm a big pickleball player. I'm a certified pickleball instructor, and one of the largest school communities is actually a pickleball instructor that's teaching a class, and he makes somewhere around $40,000 a month
Sure. Yeah.
on a pickleball class. So, yeah, I mean, the sky is literally the limit with school and what you can do. And I think the real challenge is, like you say, getting people to become involved in the classrooms and then to take action on what it is that they're learning. We can throw that information out there all day long, but some people they're just not going to, if people will even pay for courses and not complete them. And that's
Yeah.
just, we while we can't control what other people do, we're always, from a teaching perspective, we're always concerned and empathetic, or at least sympathetic in their cases, and wanting to help them. And so, is there anything at all that you can think of that might help entice somebody to actually take action in learning a class and doing something with it?
I as I said before, that's the first time I've rewarded kids my whole career, but right now, virtually, I can't pop something off the top of my head. I think it's a good thing though, because they're going to have to experience it. Um, if they don't experience the process, chances are they're not going to experience the joy or the progress. I'm a runner and I'm a running coach, and when you start running, it hurts and it's not really fun. But as you progress through your running, it becomes fun, and it'll always remain fun. You have to get through the first phase. You have to get to your second wind, and I think that's with everything in life. And so we can say the same thing about school, whether it's physical or virtual. When you first start experiencing a classroom or maybe relationships with teachers, sometimes it may not be fun. But as you progress through the experience, you know, and you're taking part and you're trying, ch- I was going to say chances are, but no, you will progress. You're either going to be successful or not, depending on how much you give. If you don't give, you don't get. If you give, you're going to see something, because teachers aren't going to fail you if you, and that's what I try to tell kids. Teachers aren't going to fail you if you're trying. Kids don't understand that. I didn't either when I was young. But if I see a kid working really hard all the time, he'll never fail my class. Never. Because I don't believe in that. And I think many teachers, I've never told anybody that. I've told people that in the buildings I worked in, because I don't believe a kid should fail. Now, would they get a D? Yeah, probably at times, or maybe even a C, if they're failing. But the thing is, nobody should fail if they try,
Mm.
because that's my, well, I didn't create that philosophical thought, but it's real. Alexander the Great, I love his quote: "Nothing's impossible to him who," now her, because back then they'd say him.
Right.
"Nothing's impossible to him who tries." And Albert Einstein said the same thing. He said, "You're not a failure unless you're trying. Unless you're only a failure when you stop trying." He didn't say it exactly like that, but you're not a failure until you stop trying. So kids, they worry about failing, and I try to tell them, you try and you're gonna be fine. You know,
Yep, absolutely. Failing is a part of the learning process, really. Failing
right?
yeah, and again, you can't fail unless you quit. The
Exactly.
failure is a part, and maybe some people think of the word failure as a finality in and of itself when it's really not. unless you quit. So it's more of a trial or a struggle, I think, than a failure. And
Sure.
the only way you're going to learn is to stretch. Well, it's just like I like saying, stretch your comfort zone. To learn something new, you've got to get outside what you already know, which is uncomfortable. And the more you do that, the more uncomfortable you get and absorb that, then you become more comfortable with it, and then you can move on and progress further. And that's a part of the learning process.
Sure. And like I was just discussing a few minutes ago, as they experience it while they're trying, just like with running, they're going to feel the change, and they're going to become. And same thing with strength training. The same thing with strength training. People think they're weak. They're not weak. They just don't lift weights. But once they progress through a program, then it becomes fun, and it becomes and you become stronger, and then you can't live without it. And that's the same thing with everything in life. I mean, um, and so school the same thing. And they walk through the progress, they start feeling good, and they'll never stop trying. And I'm trying to relate this information to what you were asking me about rewarding. I think rewarding them during the process is probably more important than rewarding them from the final results. That's just an
Hmm.
opinion. Obviously, people work. I've always given big incentives for final results. Like we had relationships with the professional sport teams in Chicago, like the Bulls and the Bears and the Cubs, and then even in Indiana, because I worked in Indiana. So the school I worked at was in Indiana, and so we also had the Colts, and they'd give kids tickets to games, but that was all during the year. Um, and I'd give it to them for trying. You didn't have to get a grade. You didn't have to be one or two or three. You just had to try. We take
Hmm.
100 kids. We take 100 kids who tried. Everybody who tried would go. And so we take 100 kids, and if they didn't try, they didn't go. Uh, the thing is, because they wanted those tickets, they wanted those pizzas. Those are things that, or the shoes. We get them. We didn't get them. We didn't buy them. They were donated. So I have to say that because 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 we can't give them things. You can't. I don't know the rules anymore. I've been away for a few years now, but we can't give kids stuff, but you can get donations.
Sure.
Uh, but the thing is, and then like the NFL would I worked with the National Football Foundation. Also, I didn't tell you that part. I worked in a high school scenario, but I was put there by the National Football Foundation. Our high school program academic programs was NFL National Football Foundation related. And so our whole focal point was to see football players, and then eventually I changed it to all athletes succeed. And kids didn't want to try, so if they knew those pizzas were waiting for them, or we'd have breakfast. We'd have breakfast in the mornings. If you showed up and you trained in the mornings and you studied in the mornings, you had breakfast with us in the mornings and things like that. And so
Mm.
those were final results. Those were prizes and rewards through the progression of the projects or whatever we were doing. Um, and it worked because they were trying, and they were working, and they were growing, and that's how like the football grades changed. Most of my other kids were already so strong, like our tennis team had perfect grades, that we'd have to worry about them, but basketball and football, we had to worry about them because, and not just because of sports, which obviously that was part of it, but because we wanted them to graduate high school, and so, but
Sure.
I really wanted them to enjoy the experience of seeing what a good grade feels like. To get a
Mm.
B for the first time in your life was an experience. They have big smiles on their faces.
I,
So
I think that from an online perspective, because everybody loves recognition,
sure,
maybe one of the easiest things and that we can do is um, just give shout outs to people at certain milestones.
exactly.
Because then they're getting rewarded by the recognition and saying, "Hey, John Smith just completed step so and so in the program. Give him a big congratulations or whatever." Because people just like to be recognized. And because it's online and it's virtual anyway, it's almost like, do they expect some physical reward, or would it be more of a, virtual reward? So that might be one
Virtual rewards,
avenue.
yeah, virtual rewards are nice. So do they work, especially if it's a virtual project. If it's a virtual community, virtual is fine. That would
Yep.
be great. Well, in the physical world, I think uh, sometimes just a shout out works. I've seen it. We've had meetings where we bring just all the athletes into an auditorium and announce who's doing what.
Mhm.
And when kids hear their names, they just have to hear their name in front of all their peers, and it was a big thing for them. And of course the tickets they help too.
Sure.
They loved going to the Colts, see the Colts play football.
Oh yeah.
That was the same year. Ironically, that was one of those years. Was the year the Colts and the Bears went to the Super Bowl. They're both my teams. They're both my teams. Well, the Bears are my team, but the Colts were my direct program with my job. So the relationship was there for both programs. When I say my team, because I'm from Joliet, Illinois, so it's that's my team.
It's your hometown
So
team, right?
yeah, I mean, so the thing is, um, the kids would love it. One ticket, just they work hard, but they didn't have to work. They didn't work hard just one time. No, it was a progress. It was a
Mm.
progressive 6 weeks, and they had to show, and it had nothing to do with their grades. It had nothing to do with the report cards. I kept track of everything that those kids were doing every single day. How they were walking down the hallway, whether were they late for classes, were they arguing with people, were they disrespectful, or were they respectful, both positives and negatives. And we put this big poster down the whole hallway of the school, and every single kid. Well, these are athletes. This program, most of these programs are for athletes because that's what I was hired to do. I worked with all the athletes, and I'd have every single kid on that board, and if and then I keep changing it every week. I would change it, rearrange it based on the points, and they were getting positive and negatives every single day. So the positive and negative points were rewards or punishment, and they never had anything physical. But then at the end of 6 weeks, we went to a football game, and just that's a lot of work for them for one ticket.
Hmm.
But they didn't. They thought that was the best. And I'm glad they thought it was the best because I really don't believe in rewards. I don't believe in physical rewards because I feel that teaches them to expect that, and they're gonna have to work hard for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'll give you an example. A young man who was I'm dating myself here. He was one of my kids back in 2004, 5. It was just a kid, and now he's running for office in Indiana. He's I look at that and I think that's wonderful. And he struggled in school. He was a football player, and he struggled in school. And now he publicly speaks, and I've been to China for many years. I left Indiana back in 13, 14. So, but I was there since 2002, 1, 2. So the moral of my story is I see the results of what those kids did, you know, and they were happy with the rewards, but it wasn't a lot of things. Pizza
Right.
party,
Yep.
pizza party is easy to do, and it's a fun day. They worked their butts off. One day though, we had 200 tickets to a Bulls game, and another time we had a car, and the car was a big thing because that went to one person.
Right.
And you had to work really hard. And that was a whole year. That was for a whole year. So that was a big reward, but they had to work hard. But the Bulls game, it was we took 150 kids. It was 200 tickets, but we had teachers too. We had to give teachers tickets, and then we loaded up a bus and we went to Chicago for the game, and it was just an all around good day. But they worked hard for a whole term just for that one experience. And to me, I look at it and I'm thinking that's not hurtful to them because it's just one thing and they work really hard for it. But if you're giving them physical rewards every single week, sometimes I give them candy bars. Big deal, you know. Sometimes
Right.
I give candy bars because I had a lot of them, and I'd go past the classrooms and just throw candy bars to them because they love kids love candy bars. But the thing is, I'd only give it to them if if they got a candy bar for me. They know that or knew they know in my own grammar. They knew that they were doing something special. You know, they just had to keep doing it.
Yep.
And so
Well,
all of this that I'm saying goes right back to your question about what kind of rewards. I like the whole concept of online virtual rewards because we use them now. And I think the biggest one, in my opinion, for school is that little flame. You know, that's a reward.
mhm.
You can lose it and you can keep it. Yes, right?
Yep. And it takes a lot to get it back.
It takes. I don't
Yeah.
know. I haven't lost it yet, but it took me a long. It took me a long time to get it. If you look at my, I didn't really understand how to get it at first, but I was seeing those little squares turn green, but they were turning. They were light. Some of them were light green, not really light green, but and there was like 20 days or something, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden,
So yeah, getting that flame, you have to have 30 consecutive days of 10 activities or more.
right.
So
But
that's likes or comments or whatever.
right,
But
I
if you
got it.
miss one, just one, then you got to start all over again. So it takes another 30 days before you get that flame back. So that's why most people, once they get it, they don't give it up.
Yeah, somebody just called. I apologize. Somebody just called me just now. When the phone call starts to ring, it interferes with my video. But so I apologize. So
No worries.
you're saying it. I didn't catch the last couple of words that you were
So
saying.
yeah, so to keep the flame,
Go
you
for
have
the
to
phone.
have 30 consecutive days of 10 activities or more. And if you miss just one day, you got to start all over again. It takes another 30 days before you can earn that flame again. So
Sure, and that's a reward, and a lot of people want that. I didn't realize it, and then I started wanting it. I was getting it. At least I thought I was, but then I examined those green squares, and they even if I didn't miss a day, um, I still wouldn't have gotten them because they were light green. They weren't dark green. There weren't
right.
enough. There
Yeah, it
weren't enough
doesn't go dark
activities.
green until you hit 10.
But I missed a whole day. I thought I was getting them because I had three green lines, but there were some light greens and dark greens and mixed all up. And then all of a sudden I missed a day. And I'm thinking, I don't remember missing a day. But then I missed a day with blank. And after that, I I got 30 days, you know, and so the thing is, and you can lose it, right? You miss a day, you're gonna lose it.
Yep.
But it's just the whole it's just it's just the the mere challenge of getting it. That's what pushes me, you know, because we're not there for the flame.
No.
We're there for the experience. You know?
Yep. 100%. Well, Constantine, it's been fun. We've gone over our 30 minutes by quite a bit. We could probably talk for another hour, but we usually keep these episodes around 30 minutes. Um, but it's definitely been a pleasure. How can somebody get in touch with you, or is it just through your school community, or is there any other way that somebody might get in touch with you?
Yeah, unlimited, unlimited understanding,
Yep.
unlimited global understanding. In other words, we're trying to bring them unlimited knowledge, unlimited understanding, because when the whole philosophy behind that phrase is once we stop learning about other people, then we stop growing closer to them, you know, or
Sure.
with them. And obviously, I'm not, like I said at the beginning, I'm not going to change the world, but I feel like if we continually to learn about each other, if we can continue to learn about each other, adapt to each other, and accept each other, we're going to have a much better world. You know, I think a lot of people
100%.
shut down. I think a lot of people. I can't speak for other people. I don't think it's fair for me to speak for other people. But what I'm trying to describe is a lot of people just stay within their own. and there's nothing wrong with that. But we have 195 countries, and we're all in one globe right here online. It's a virtual world now, and we're all living in it. There was a time where we didn't connect with anybody outside the United States. Heck, we hardly connected with people outside of Chicago or Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of us, even today, we don't even connect with our neighbors across the street for that matter. So, yeah.
Sure. But business is a wonderful thing now. I mean, we can press a couple buttons on the computer and we're talking to people in another country, and we're building relationships and doing business, and that's a good thing. The building relationships part's a good thing.
Sure. Oh, absolutely, 100%.
And
all right, Constantine. Well, let's wrap it up here.
Like
I said, it's been good. You shared lots of good information. Wow, we spent a lot of time on sports and education as well. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming out and sharing your story. And I will definitely put your links in the show notes.
You bringing me.
All right, Constantine. Well, you have a good rest of your day or evening, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Take care, Ray. Okay. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Growth happens when knowledge turns into action. If you're ready to keep that work going, join us inside the Doing What You Know community at doingwhatyouknow.com/team. Thanks for spending this time with me. Until next time, keep doing what you know.